All right, so over the last couple months, we've been doing a lot of smallmouth fishing now. The last few weekends, we've been trying to get out a lot more, do a lot of largemouth fishing, and it made me realize how much I love throwing a Texas rig. So today, we're gonna go over my top 5 favorite Texas rig baits, some of the little things that I do differently based on what bait it is, and maybe some rods, reels, stuff like that. Let's get into it. How's it going, guys? Travis here from Tackle Bros. I'm with my boy Ashton, aka QTR_46. We are Tackle Bros Fishing on Instagram, so make sure you give us a follow. And today we're going to talk about my favorite Texas rig style baits. Now, there's going to be some different profiles, different shapes, and I fish them all a little bit differently. Texas rig fishing is one of the most effective ways to catch bass year-round. Largemouth, smallmouth. Up here, it's really more of a largemouth targeted style of bait. Largemouth, for the most part, you know, get up into the cover. Smallmouth, a lot of the time up here are offshore. Now, we do catch a lot of them on some of these baits, and I'll get into which ones they are, but that's kind of the breakdown of when we go to each one. I'm gonna rank these. It's not 1 to 5. I'm just gonna show you my favorite 5. We're gonna start right here with the DOLIVE Beaver. Now, you guys should be familiar with this. We've done colors in this in the past. This is a phenomenal type of craw style bait, let's say. Doesn't look like a craw. It's more of a shrimpy look, I would say. But this has a phenomenal action in the water. So as this falls down, these 2 big claws are going to kind of swing back and forth. It moves a ton of water, has a ton of drawing power. It looks amazing in the water, and fish can't stand it. I love to fish this on the back of a jig. I will fish this Texas a lot as well. But yeah, I'll just basically peg a little bullet weight on this, usually a 1/4 ounce bullet weight. I peg it usually pretty tight with this guy because I want the fall to be pretty drastic with this one. And then when you lift it up, same thing. It's gonna come up, it's gonna kind of undulate, and then these are gonna kick all the way back down to the bottom. Normally, I get it on that first fall or the first lift, and that's gonna be common in Texas rig fishing. This one just is a day in, day out, certified catcher. This one comes through grass a lot easier because it's more streamlined. So if I'm flipping, you know, deeper grass, this is probably my #1 preferred bait. I throw most of these on the same type of rod. Right now I've been using the X-Bites a lot. I really like that rod. This is also a great punching bait. So if you guys are punching mats, again, that streamline is phenomenal for stuff like that. You're just gonna wanna leave that weight a little bit unpegged so it can kind of pull through and then pull this down with it. But this is a great bait to start with. The 3.5 and 4 inch are kind of that more preferred style. The 3.5 inch and the 3 inch are also phenomenal if you guys are going to be doing any sort of free rigging. This is a really good one for that. Available in a ton of different colors, including our color, which is Special Ops. This is our special color. We did it in the 3.5 inch, so it's going to be black on one side and then green pumpkin on the other side. It's just kind of the best of both worlds. If you can only have one, it's probably going to be this one because you can kind of do a lot with it. This is a straight up fish catcher that I catch them on year round. Next up is going to be the DEPS Cover Scat. This has been a very popular bait for a long time. It's basically a do-nothing bait. This bait doesn't have a lot of action to it. Although, if you kind of snap the rod a little bit, you can get this thing to walk underwater, which is pretty cool. But this thing is a straight-up fish catcher. Now, this one I rig completely no weight. This is a weightless bait. It's pretty heavy, dense plastic. You kind of want to just let this fall naturally. And I really throw this when the fishing is slow and I need to slow down. I'll throw this guy. Slower fall rate, but this one gets bit really, really well. I'll also use this on a Carolina rig a lot of the time. Smallmouth eat this really good. We caught a bunch of smallmouth the other day, largemouth fishing on this guy. It's just one of those things, man, that has become sort of a staple. When these first came out, this SCAT style of bait, the heavy poop style bait, everyone thought people were crazy. The Japanese guys were fishing this in some of the weirdest ways. They're long lining it down in super deep water and then just kind of twitch, and then leave it again. This just flipping in and around cover. I love throwing this around docks, up against laydowns, and just kind of banging it in and around all the cover. If I'm fishing against rocks. This is great. It just has a ton of draw power. You almost fish this very similar to a Senko as well. So if you guys throw, you know, like a weightless Senko, you're throwing it around, this replaces that. This has replaced Senko fishing for me in its entirety. Now, the other thing that I will do is gonna be the GEECRACK Emo KEMUSHI. Now, this is a very similar style of bait, but it's also going to have a bunch of silicone skirting in it. This just gives it a different look. If my cover scat bite starts to die off a little bit, I'll go to an Emo KEMUSHI, generally fires them back up, and I can always get a couple more fish. If I'm in a big like pot of fish, one of us will throw this, one of us will throw this, and then we can kind of keep things rolling. This is, again, the same style of emo baits. So these are a heavier, denser bait. They don't need weights. I never rig these weighted. It's just a slow fall. These have a ton of action in the water as it's falling. They're just kind of quivering all the way down. Fish can't stand it. That's kind of been a concept with a lot of baits these days, is putting silicone skirting through it, and this is no different. Catches them phenomenally. All right, now this is one that I was actually playing with yesterday, so I have one rigged up, and I do something a little bit more different with this guy. So this is the GEECRACK bellows gill. I'll actually grab one before we get into how I rig it. So the GEECRACK bellows gill. This is a crazy looking bait. It has a ton of ultra deep ribbing. It's very soft. They have a great scent. So this has like a salt amino flavoring. It's very pungent. It kind of smells like corn chips. It has a ton of action in the water. It swims very well. It's phenomenal on the back of a jig, but Texas rig, this thing does something pretty special. So as it falls, this tail quivers the entire way down. I don't know if it looks like a bluegill. I don't really know what it looks like, but they eat the heck out of this thing. All right, now let's look how I rig this thing. So I have a weight, I have the hook, I have the bait, and then I have a little stopper, you know, about, I don't know, 8-10 inches away from the bait. That's gonna allow this weight to slide and be able to move. So when I'm throwing this in and around docks, the weight is gonna hit the bottom first, and then this is gonna kind of slowly come down because it's flat. It disperses a lot of water, so the fall rate is quite a bit less. That seems to be the ticket for me with this guy. If I have it straight up pegged, obviously I still get bit, but most of my bites seem to come after I can feel the weight hit the bottom, and then this guy's falling, I get bit there. These are really cool because you can still Texas rig it, obviously, into the little ribs there. That's how I have this guy done up. These pair up phenomenal with an INFINI hook. They pair up phenomenal with a bellows hook. And those are kind of my main flipping hooks these days. I just have a ton of confidence in those two. That INFINI hook is phenomenal. And then, yeah, 50-pound braid on most of these. I'll go fluoro if I have to, but if I can use braid, you always want to use braid. You can get them in the boat really quick. Generally, when I'm flipping, I'm using an 8-to-1 gear ratio reel. That just allows for the line pickup, so you can get the hook set in very nicely. I'm using a Bantam right now. I love the Bantam for any type of like harder style of fishing. This is just kind of a workhorse reel. And then right now I've been using the X bites. I love this thing for all of these baits so far. I've been throwing on the X bites. I love this thing. It's one of my favorite P5 rods. If I was to redo the video again, I think this would rank very, very highly in my top rods. All right, last but not least, we're gonna have the Raid HIRA TAILOR. Now, kind of similar to that bellows gill, but this has a lot different fishing action. This tail has a lot of thump to it, and this also has a spiral fall, which is kind of the big difference between the two. That one does spiral fall. This one spiral falls very well. So I do kind of peg this one similar. I leave a little bit longer of a gap in between the peg and the weight. This one I love fishing in and around grass because of that spiral fall. So as I am, you know, bringing it up, it'll sort of let that weight hit the bottom. This has a very beautiful all the way down spiral fall, just kind of like a dying bait fish. They cannot stand it. This is a cleanup bait for me a lot of the time. You can also swim this back to you, and I've got tons of bites doing that. It's just an overall effective bait. A lot of guys will use the DEPS bull flat. It has a very similar action to this, but I just think because of this ribbing, this just moves a little bit more water, displaces water just as good as the DEPS. The DEPS is still phenomenal, but this has become one of those baits that I have a ton of confidence in. We also NEKO rig this a lot, just popping one of those little NEKO hacks into this guy and NEKO rigging it because that spiral fall. It's just a phenomenal big fish catcher, and it triggers those fish that would rather not bite, but if it's going to be a free dying bait fish meal, they're going to eat this guy for sure. So check these baits out. Next time you're going Texas rig fishing, we're gonna have a video coming for you guys of us doing a big largemouth trip over the last weekend, and we'll see you guys on the next one.